So we want to welcome, of course, Professor Carolina Buitrago, and thank you for accepting our invitation. Remember that this webinar was supposed to take place last week, but we have some issues with the internet. It was all over the country, it was not just us. So we rescheduled, and here we are today. So Professor Carolina, thank you very much for accepting again and for making some time for us as ASOCOPI. So we are going to listen to her presentation entitled Social-Emotional Learning in EFL, Going Beyond the Verb to Be. So Professor Carolina is, she has some experience, of course, not some, she has a lot of experience as a language teacher and teacher educator for 20 years now. She currently is the leader of the SEL research line at Institución Universitaria Colombo-Americana Única, and she holds a master's degree in positive education, and her work combines language teaching, flipped learning, and socio-emotional learning. So once again, Professor Carolina, welcome, and let's start now. The floor is yours for your webinar.
Thank you so much, Eliana, and thank you very much to ASOCOPI for inviting me to participate in this webinar. This is the second webinar that I do. The first one was with my first love, which was educational technology and the field of flipped learning. That's my other line of work and interest. And this one
Nos fuimos porque no hay quien le ayude a mi suegra con las arepas, entonces ya
Okay.
We need people.
Estamos saliendo, mejor dicho.
There is a microphone on. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, so I was saying that now this webinar is going to be focused on the social-emotional learning component of my work. And well, this is the most recent one, but still it's a very important part of what I do, and actually something that was awakened because of the needs of my students in my English classes. I started to realize that my students needed support beyond the academics, and I didn't know how to offer that support. Probably you faced the same situation. And well, the idea of today is to have this reflection and to start talking about how we draw the line between what we can do as English teachers and what we cannot do. And also to reflect on the opportunities that our English language teaching field gives us in order to build social-emotional learning around our classes in our students. So I have titled this presentation, Social-Emotional Learning in EFL, Going Beyond the Verb to Be. Pun intended, the idea of to be is interesting and is something to consider here. To be meaning both in Spanish, ser and estar. It's a beautiful verb, and I think sometimes we don't analyze it enough. So, well, once again, thank you so much, ASOCOPI, for the invitation. I am Carolina Rodriguez Buitrago, and the date was last week's. And so I wanted to start with this little pun here. To be or not to be, that is the question raised by Shakespeare. And, well, Tom presents to us here, is you, is or is you went. So as English teachers, we are thinking more about to be as the verb, to be able to talk about I am a teacher, I am intelligent, I am from Cali, I am a great person, I am scared. But today we are going to go beyond the simple, discrete use of the language and try to use the language as a vehicle not only to communicate, but also to express socio-emotionally and to take advantage of what we can do with the language in order to build resilience, in order to build other more mindful habits in our students for them to explore their social-emotional learning as well. So, okay, let's keep on. I would like to read you in the chat. So please, can you answer this question? How do you include SEL in your EFL class? SEL being social-emotional learning and EFL being English as a foreign language. So how do you include SEL in your EFL class? So we're going to be reading from the chat. Okay, so we have Lena saying that she's looking forward to knowing about positive learning. Fingers crossed to see if it's the same topic I'm learning about. Caro Vega, hi Carito, says in assessment practices. That's interesting. How do you do that, Carito? You want to expand a little bit on that idea? Because I thought of one of those for today's session. So, okay, sorry about the multiple paths that are going to pass around. Through reading experiences, says Juana. Thank you so much. Yes, reading is such a beautiful tool that we can use in order to include self-reflection, etc. Same, peer assessment, says Lena, and feedback. Thank you, feedback. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, great. So, okay, fastest fingers. Let's see who can type faster. I'm still waiting for some comments on the chat. So far, we have reading, assessment, and peer assessment and feedback, which is great, pretty rich. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. Probably some more answers will come through as we go. So I'll be attentive to the chat. Now, to those people who already answered the first question, do you want to answer this one? What do you understand by well-being? Right? Okay, so Alice says by being empathetic with our students. Yes, thank you so much. Empathy is such a great cell indicator. Alejandro says, well, that was Mario. He introduced himself as Mario. So to open the lesson. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Mario, to open the lesson. And so what is well-being? What do you understand by well-being? Maybe somebody wants to open up the microphone and just let us know what they think. Okay, so Alice says well-being is about having balance in your life. Interesting, beautiful. Balance in your life, being in balance for me. Yes. Okay, great. So Mario, you raised your hand. Can you go ahead and tell us what you understand by well-being?
Well, hi, everyone.
Hi.
That's a term I have defined it in class, and I have understood it as the state of having different dimensions balance in life, such as health, emotional, and other dimensions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mario, and also for bringing the voice. You know, we feel alive. Okay, great. So yes, we have, Carito says harmony, not sacrificing one or the other. So we all talk about balance. Mario, Lina, Ale, they all mention balance in our lives. And yes, that is so true. So we think about the human being and we have so many dimensions. We always think first about the work dimension, right? The work or study. If you are a student, you're considering study, you're considering what you have to do, what your to-do list is all about. And so that is the first thing that comes to mind. But we also have leisure. We also have these moments where we think about the things we like to do, our hobbies, the things that nurture our soul. So leisure is a very important one. But also we need to consider romantic relationships, romance, right? That's why we live in partnerships. Human beings, we're social. We want to nurture each other. We want to get relationships that are nurturing, that help us flourish, that help us grow together. But also we have health. Health is another very important aspect. And if we don't have health, it's very difficult to enjoy the other things. But then we have a spirituality. We need a connection with something higher than us, with something bigger. And then we think about money, because yeah, we can have a great job and we can have leisure, but if we don't have money to pay for all of that, then how are we going to live happy and complete, right? But then it's also important to think not only about romance, but about relationships, family, friends, you know, those people we care about. Students sometimes are the people we care about. And then growth, personal growth. How do we keep becoming better versions of ourselves? So when we think about all these dimensions that the human being has, this not only apply to our students, this also apply to us as teachers. And so sometimes we just forget about all of that and we stay here at the realm of work, you know, working, sacrificing our health, sacrificing our families and friends, sacrificing our romantic relationships, not paying attention to our spirituality, not getting enough money, and not taking time for ourselves. And so this goes in detriment of what we do in our classrooms. And so this idea is not to say that we are not going to pay attention to it because we are English teachers. We want to pay attention to this. And we want to pay attention to this in a twofold level. We want to do it for ourselves first, as when we go in the airplane. I was having a conversation with a very special friend today, and we were talking about that, how important it is to put on our oxygen masks first, fill up our tanks first, make sure that we have it all balanced in our own lives, so then we can give it to our students. So that is the first invitation that I want to give to all of us today. As teachers, we care so much about our students, but we also need to care about ourselves to be able to have our tanks filled and to be able to give the best that we can give. So is all of this relevant for us as English teachers? I see on the chat we have Alice says totally. It is relevant for us as human beings, right? Regardless if we are students, if we are teachers, if we are doctors, if we are lawyers, it is relevant to all of us. And if something we learned from the pandemic, it was that mental health is important. It was that when emotionally we are not safe, we are not in a safe space, we are not feeling well, we cannot perform well in any other of the aspects of our lives. So yes, this is relevant for us as English teachers, and that is probably what we're going to be discussing today. Yes, Marta says it's crucial. Hi, Matika. Lina says for everyone, indeed. Yes, absolutely. This is relevant for all of us. So yes, the pandemic taught us the central role of SEL, and it became kind of a buzzword, right? We are all big fans of buzzwords. So 2 years ago, it was flipped learning, but today SEL. And the thing is, it has to transcend the role of a buzzword. It has to transcend this idea that this is just popular. No. Suicide rates are increasing, students with anxiety, people with depression, these rankings are scary, right? And we are in a moment in our world when things are so uncertain. We just lived and it's not over. We're living through a pandemic that has shown us how ephemeral everything is. We've seen people go, we've said goodbye to relatives, to friends, to students, to colleagues, to families of friends, and we have seen the value of many things. And so today, that is the question that I want to raise. Is like, what is important for me as an English teacher now? What is my role in this whole game that we're playing? And how can I do it in the best way without sacrificing my own well-being, right? So, well, what is SEL? Let's see a couple of ideas. There are different concepts and there are different thoughts. And I would like to point out some stuff that I've been thinking about, pondering and discussing with my friends too. What SEL and positive education and positive psychology are not. That is the first thing that I want us to discuss. So these are not toxic positivity, right? Ignoring the wrongly called negative or bad emotions. So around around this topic, there's a lot of debate, right? When we talk about positive education, positive psychology, socio-emotional learning, immediately we have the people who believe that by talking about these issues, what we're doing is not recognizing the others. And it's not true, right? This is not, it has nothing to do with toxic positivity. This is something that is about flourishing, that is about choosing the side where you want to be. It's about, yes, acknowledging all these emotions that are not pleasant, but that are not bad. You know, it's not bad to feel sad. If something we learned from the movie Inside Out is that sadness is okay. We need sadness in our lives. We need anger. We need fear. They mobilize us. They make us shake. They make us realize what is unfair, and they make us move. And so, yes, we need them in our lives. So the thing is, how do we navigate? How do we work around, or how do we process or manage all these emotions, right? So this is not about toxic positivity. Then this is not disguising burnout with a positive attitude. So positive psychology, positive education, or SEL are not just trying to ignore that teachers are worn out. I mean, I'm saying we shouldn't. We shouldn't continue saying that we can do everything, everything is possible. No, sometimes we crumble, and it's okay to crumble. It's okay not to be okay, as the students of one of my coworkers said in a presentation. I think that was very moving. It's okay not to be okay. And as teachers, we have had to deal with a lot, because we have had to deal not only with our own stuff, but with all of our students' stuff through the camera. We were with them 2 years when they were losing relatives, when they were not able to concentrate because somebody in their family was using oxygen right in the living room. We were there to see, unfortunately, like violence in the families, or children or teenagers who were tired of being at home, listening to their parents' fights. We were there. We were there through all of that, and we helped our students move past that. Now, when we're coming back to this face-to-face new normal, we are burned out, and we cannot just disguise this by saying that we care so much. We have to actually care, and we have to actually do stuff that is socio-emotionally oriented for our teachers. This is a message for all coordinators, administrators out there. Teachers also need socio-emotional learning. Teachers also need conversations. Teachers also need repairing, and they also need to be understood, not just to have a positive attitude, because this is our vocation and this is what we have to do. Okay, so yeah, probably this is a little bit controversial, but that's the idea of these webinars, isn't it? So happy to run into the term positive psychology again, says Lena. Okay, great. I'm going back into the chat all the time to see what you guys are saying. Ignoring contextual challenges. Yes, no, when we talk about socio-emotional learning, when we talk about positive psychology or positive education, we are not ignoring our situations in the country. We are not ignoring the reality that we're living in. We are not ignoring the uncertainty that we are feeling facing the new elections. We are not ignoring any of these things. We are just choosing to pay attention to what is constructing, to what's going to build our students, to what's going to help them understand their role in the world and why they are here, right? So this is something important that I wanted to bring up, because normally when we talk about either SEL or positive psychology or positive education, people think we are delusional, we are the, like the happy person or the positive person. And no, we also have, our days. We also have our problems, and we also have our pains for everything that is happening. The different thing is what you decide to do with that. Do you decide to go and keep going down into murder, the dark land, or do you decide to try to see what's good and see what you can do and how you can learn from what's happening in your life in that moment? So let's take a look at what SEL and positive education and positive psychology actually are. Okay, so let's start with socio-emotional learning. For socio-emotional learning, I like to work with the CASEL model. The CASEL, I have, in this moment, I lost track of the acronym, but it's basically this academic socio-emotional learning model, right? And so in here, if you go into the website, you can just Google or write casel.org. You are going to see this wheel, and it's going to be a clickable wheel that is going to give you way more information than I can in this very short time about the model. If you're interested in going forward with this, I definitely recommend you to go to casel.org. And so this model involves every single participant or stakeholder in the learning process, right? So it's classrooms, schools, family, and caregivers, and communities. This is not something that we can do in the classroom and then not do at home, because then it doesn't work that way, right? We need to be all together, united, in order to create socio-emotional learning for our students. And so if we think about this part, we need cell instruction and classroom climate. Yes, we can do that as teachers and create it in the classroom. But then we build a school-wide culture, practices, and policies where every teacher, every class, every administrator is on the same page. Yeah, it doesn't work when some people are for the socio-emotional learning paradigm and other people think that humiliating students is the way to go, right? We all need to believe that this is going to work and we all need to work together. Then we have to include, of course, families and caregivers, authentic partnerships. Parents need to be interested in learning about this. We know parents rarely want to go to the school of parents, right? Because they think they know. We think we know so well how to educate our kids. But this is something that is part of the model as well. We involve parents into teaching them how to approach these problems, how to solve situations, how to include nonviolent communication, how to foster decision-making, etc. And then we have aligned learning opportunities with the community. So we create projects, we involve the community into the development of our students' socio-emotional learning. So that is like the outer circle. Thank you so much, Juana, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. That's CASEL. So the model has 5 parts, yeah, like 5 pieces of the puzzle. And they are self-awareness and self-management, which refer to the student's ability to self-manage, to be self-aware, to realize emotions. Like if we move this into the words of Mark Brackett, we will be thinking about the ability to recognize our emotions, to recognize our abilities, to recognize our weaknesses and our strengths. That is what happens in the self-awareness and self-management portions of the model. Then we have social awareness and relationship skills. This one is outer, right? This one is an ability to recognize what's happening and to navigate my personal and interpersonal relations in a way that is not hurtful, that is not abusive, that communicates thoroughly what I want without imposing, but communicating properly. And also building relationships that are long lasting, that help me flourish, that are nurturing for both sides. And then we have responsible decision making, which involves the development of executive functioning, of course, and also the ability of students to understand weaknesses and work towards those weaknesses in order to improve their processes. Okay, this model is amazing. If you want to go deeper into it, I strongly recommend you to go to the website casel.org, and you're going to find amazing information there. Okay, so that was the first model, which is the socio-emotional learning. And then we have positive psychology and positive education. So I would like you to think about these words. If you've seen them around, probably they're buzzwords. Now they're super popular, like mindfulness, flow, grit, resilience, forgiveness, gratitude. All of these words make part of this amazing field of positive psychology and, of course, positive education. So we can integrate these elements into our EFL classrooms easily. Like if we think, we go back to mindfulness, flow, grit, resilience, forgiveness, gratitude. We can use all of these things in our English class, and I'll show you how in a moment. So we can do activities in our classroom without forgetting our mission as language educators. I was having a conversation with one of my best friends about this fact, that now we English teachers, we're kind of into the fads, right? So we want to teach anything that is fashionable. And sometimes we're losing track of our mission, which is to teach the language. So we have to be very careful about realizing that we are not psychologists. Yeah, we are language educators, and we can do certain things that will help our students develop a mindful attitude, flow, grit, resilience, forgiveness, etc. But our purpose is to help them reflect and learn the language. So we cannot lose track of that. Like we were having a little bit of a phenomenon at the place where I work, because students were getting so interested in all these topics that they were doing the research projects about things that were more geared to psychology than they were to language education or bilingual education. So we need to keep, like our goal in mind. And this is something very important because yes, we can do it through our English class, but we cannot forget our mission as language educators. I'm trying to mute someone who I see is not muted. So can you please mute your microphone if you're not speaking or if you don't want to speak? So we're going to work on 5 different activities today, and I'll give you a bonus. Okay, so these are going to be 5 EFL activities with a self-focus. The first one is an emotional check-in with mood meter. I am going to, of course, give credit to my friend Marta Ramirez, who proposed this activity. Then we're going to talk about the mindful breathing. Then we're going to talk about character strengths, hyperdoc, and I'm going to give you a hyperdoc for you to work with it if you want in your classes. Then we're going to do the 3 good things exercise, and to finish, a growth mindset rubric. That's why I asked you, Caro, what you thought about the assessment, because definitely growth mindset can be something we work on for assessment. So, and the bonus is going to be the Wheel of Life exercise. So are you ready? Do you have any questions, comments, suggestions, invitations, or anything before I move on to the activities? Write them on the chat. I'll drink a sip of water in the meantime. Ready, says Marta. Ready, Eliana. Good. Okay, that was like 3 sips of water, but I needed them. My cats say hello. Okay, those are the 2. All righty, so let's get on to our first activity, the emotional check-in with the mood meter. And this, I tried to think of the language features that we could work with all the activities so that you take notes of them and you take them to your classroom on Monday or tomorrow. Okay, I'm hearing myself in somebody's microphone. Okay, I think I stopped hearing myself. Thank you. That's a little annoying. All right, so the vocabulary and pronunciation would be the features that we can work with this activity. However, of course, my dear teachers, you're more creative than I am today, so probably you can think of 1,000 other uses for this activity. So if you do, please do share them in the comment section below, so when the teachers watch the webinar on video, they can get your ideas as well. So level, everybody, we can do this with everybody. So here we have to mention our dear friend, Mark Brackett, and his book, Permission to Feel. We love this book. We read it in my book club. A lot of people from my book club are here. Thank you. Love you very much. And we read this book in our book club, and it was beautiful. But more than that, it was very useful, and it is very clear. It's a great framework that we can use if we want to work with emotions in our classroom. So one of the premises of the book and one of the ideas that Mark presents to us is that we do not have a vocabulary to name our emotions. So when people say, how are you? We say, fine. Or how you doing? Meh. You know, like that's the answer that we get, right? If I asked you today, right now, how are you? What would you say? Write it on the chat real quick. Cold, exhausted. Okay, we have good words. Busy, tired but happy, calm, tired, excited, great, excited. Okay, we didn't say fine, good, kudos to you, happy faces to you. So according to Mark Brackett, the model that he proposes for the Permission to Feel book is ruler. And there are curricula in the United States, in many schools, that go under this model. So the first part in the ruler model is to recognize emotions in self and others. If we go back to the Casel wheel, this would be part of self-awareness and self-management, recognizes emotions in self and others. Then we have to understand the causes and consequences of those emotions. Then what we do is to label emotions accurately. And here is where Brackett says we do not have enough vocabulary. We tend to reduce it to maybe 5 or 6 words. That's what we got. Then we need to express emotions appropriately, not by hitting, not by kicking, not by punching faces or, puncturing eyes, but appropriately, and regulating emotions effectively. So before regulation comes 4 different processes. So this is very interesting for us to apply in our class. And how can we do it? He proposes a mood meter. He's got this tool that he created with the lab. He works, Martika, can you help us write on the chat where my bracket works? It's the Yale Center for Socio-emotional Learning. It's the Yale Center for something. So you guys can help me out there writing it on the chat for the teachers to go and find it. They have created this tool. As you can see, there are 4 quadrants, right? And what the idea of these quadrants are to express the level of energy. So this axis presents the level of energy. So here at the top is high energy. Here at the bottom is low energy. But then this other axis, the horizontal axis, present the levels of pleasantness, how pleasant the emotion is. So this one is low pleasantness, and at the end of this spectrum is going to be high pleasantness. So what does that mean? If I feel stunned, for example, this emotion right here, it would mean that I have a high level of energy and a medium level of pleasantness. It's not so pleasant, but it's very energetic, right? Or if I feel, for example, exhilarated, it's a very high level of energy with a very high level of pleasantness. So it's a very cool emotion, right? But if I'm here in this pair, for example, it would be like low level of energy, low level of pleasantness, like feeling like not really good, right? The emotion is very strong, but on the other side. So if I asked you now to use the annotate, can they annotate? Probably. Can you annotate? Like if I asked you to use the annotate button in Zoom and to choose the stamps, where would you place a stamp? There we go. We have Adri. She's already marking. So I'm going to use the heart, and I'm going to say that today I am connected to you via this webinar. I am pleased to be here, and I am thoughtful because I had a really good conversation with a friend, right? And I am grateful to have the opportunity to be here with you. So if you could annotate this, where would you place yourself? And look at me. I didn't just say one, because we're never only one emotion. We have so many emotions that we can use. Thank you, Angie. Angie says she's focused. That's great. David says she's thankful or grateful. Great. There we go. I love this. Adri says motivated. Okay, thank you, Martika. Yale Center for Emotional Regulation. Oh, emotional intelligence. Okay, we have Martika says inspired with a big heart. There we go. And so this was exactly the activity that Martha taught me to do, right? So using the stamps on the Zoom, have students put stamps on the mood meter so that we can see that we're first not only one emotion, that we can all be in different places, and that sometimes this happens, and this is part of Mark Brackett's research, that sometimes people are on the same quadrant in a class. And actually, if you go into the website of the Yale Center, you are going to find activities that you can do when your students are in the yellow quadrant, in the red quadrant, in the blue quadrant, and in the green quadrant. For example, if your students are in the red quadrant, you can do mindful meditation and a tapping exercise, right? To help them navigate those emotions and self-regulate and lower, for example, heart rate, and get them to work with you on something. But if all of your students, like in my case, are in the yellow quadrant, that means everyone has high level of energy, high level of pleasantness. I can pretty much throw anything at you and you will be able to do it because you have the right motivation to do it. So do you see how important this is? And so this activity, I called it I'm sorry, I'm going to clear the screen. So, okay, sorry, Eliana, thank you. I'll clear it now again to move it. Okay. And so I called it emotional check-in with the mood meter. Why? Because this is an activity you can do every class at the beginning, be it face-to-face or online. You can print this poster, have it in your classroom. You can have your students make the cards and organize your mood meter in your classroom. This is going to be a wonderful activity because you can, for example, have one student do 2 cards that are 100 words in here. The bigger your class, the less words your student will have to do. And you can have them write the word on the front of the card and then the definition of the word on the back so they can practice the vocabulary. So this is how this activity promotes vocabulary. And also you can have your students pronounce all these words because they're not easy to pronounce all of them. So you can have a pronunciation exercise. And this can be your beginning of every class. In 1 year, your students will have 100 words to express their emotions. How wonderful is this? And they will have 100 more words in their vocabulary. How wonderful is this, right? So first activity, emotional check-in with the mood meter. Thank you. So I'll take a look at the chat here. So good. We have the instructions here. Display the mood meter in your classroom, either face-to-face or online. As you can see, we can do it in any way. Ask students to locate themselves in the quadrants, like where do you feel you are today? You can do that with stickers. You can do it with, maybe you can have little cards with their names and they can place their names. And they can see also that sometimes they're going to be in their yellow quadrant, sometimes in the red, sometimes in the green, and it's okay. There are no positive or negative emotions. There are just emotions. Pre-teach some vocabulary for that particular quadrant. Yeah, that's going to be another way to go. Like you can choose, for example, like today we're going to learn these 5 words, then the next class these other 5, then the next class these other 5, depending on where your students are in the quadrants. And ask students to pronounce the words. Ask students to choose the word that best expresses the emotion of the day. There might be 5, but which is the one that you feel more strongly today, so that your students get used to choosing, expressing, saying, labeling, naming, okay, their own emotions. And then repeat every week, repeat every month, repeat every semester, every time that you have with your students, okay? Wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna move on to second activity. Oh my God, the time is never enough. So this one is mindful breathe. I wrote breaking and it's breathing. I'm so sorry. Breathing with Go Noodle. This one, the language feature here is listening and it's for everybody. So what is Go Noodle? Go Noodle is a website that is free. You can register to it and have different options. And Go Noodle has section for STEL and mindfulness, right? So they have exercises for physical activation. They have exercises for math, for Ella, for many, many things, but they also have a piece for STEL and mindfulness, right? So what they do is they have videos, right? And you can also YouTube these videos. You can YouTube Go Noodle and you're gonna find some of the meditations. These meditations are 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes that are different ones. But not only they have meditations, but they have also activation videos, energizing videos. Like it's really rich if you want to build a habit for this. So how do I see it positive? Sorry, I'm gonna move this. Yeah, I see it positive because it helps us target all the different things that students are going through. So because we are breathing and we are going inside of us in English, because the videos are in English, right? We can acknowledge self without forgetting that we are language teachers, right? So we can, I'll show you what happened here. Why is this showing me the end? No. Give me 1 second. I think it was the video that just didn't want to play, and so it just went crazy. Yeah, the video definitely didn't want to play. Okay. I'm gonna go back here. There we go. So this activity, you go to Go Noodle or YouTube and search for a mindful meditation exercise. You pre-teach any necessary vocabulary. So for example, breathe in, breathe out, hold, yeah, those words. You play the video for your students in class and have them follow along with the video. And you repeat. As I mentioned, these videos are like 2 minutes. It's 1 minute, 30 seconds. It doesn't take that much from your class. And it will definitely help your students go back to the center, find their center, find quietness and the energy to start with your class. So this could be used as a great warm-up activity, right? I know it sounds like a low down, like not warm up, but calm down. But sometimes that's what we need. You know, when students just come back from physical education and we have them in our class, or when students are coming back from a very challenging exam. So then is when we can use this one as a warm-up or calm down exercise. Okay, so activity 3 is the character strengths hyperdoc. In here, we're gonna use language features such as grammar, vocabulary, reading, speaking, and writing, okay? And the level for this activity, unfortunately, this one was prepared for a B1 level. So the one that I am presenting to you today, which is based on character strengths, it's a review of the present tenses. So it can be used with a B1 level. However, I'm giving you the presentation so that you can actually use it with your students. And if you want, you can grade it to the different levels that you're teaching. So what are hyperdocs? Hyperdocs were invented by Kelly Hilton, Lisa Highfield, and Sarah Landis. They are 3 instructional designers in the United States. And hyperdocs are digital lessons, right? Before the pandemic, this could have been a little bit exotic, but now it's like, oh yeah, I did a lot of digital lessons when I was teaching online. So what I did with this was to read the entire book. I read the Hyperdoc Handbook, Digital Lesson Design using Google Apps. They are kind of married to the Google Apps. You don't have to be, you know, but definitely they work very well with Google Apps. And the structure of a hyperdoc is basically the navigation of a lesson, right? So we think about an activity that engages students, then we explore the topic, like explore background knowledge, and explore the topic without explaining it directly. Then we explain it, okay, like thoroughly direct instruction. Then we apply something. So we're going, as you can see, we're going a little bit through Bloom's taxonomy here. Then we share, so we have opportunities for our students to share their work with their classmates. We reflect, this is the metacognitive moment of the hyperdoc where students reflect on what they learned. And then we extend, so we provide additional resources for those students who always want to go beyond. So how do we connect the hyperdoc with positive education and positive psychology? So I created this hyperdoc to review the present tenses, right? And I think here is where I have it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna show it to you real fast, but I'm gonna share it with you too, okay? So my hyperdoc is called Be Happy, Be Present. And so the engage part is us, just an image talking about the present, being in the present. Then we have a mindful meditation, okay? And an answer garden exercise where students just reacted to the mindful meditation. The exploration of the topic was through the character survey. So this is why I say this is a B1 level activity, because the character survey has a lot of questions, right? So the students take the survey and the questions are yes, no questions with all the present tenses, right? So this is how we're exploring the 2 topics together, right? The character strengths, but also the review of the present tenses. So students were supposed to save and print the results for later. What happens with this survey is that you get 5 character strengths that are your signature. So which are the highest ones you have and which ones are the lowest. And so this served as a springboard for discussion for the rest of the unit. Explain, this one is about the grammar itself. So I selected 3 videos from AngloLink, which I liked a lot in the moment. However, you can design your own videos if you want. It depends on how you feel, right? Apply, this activity, for example, had like what we called controlled practice. So these were exercises for students to practice their present tenses isolatedly without the topic of the unit. However, here now we have a freer practice where students produce a little text based on the character survey that they just took. Here, students share the results in a Flipgrid, so you can see the students presenting their character strengths. And then there is a peer assessment. Students watch the videos and follow the rubric in order to assess their classmates. Then they reflect on a Padlet wall, and they shared, what they learned about the hyperdoc. And here are some extension exercises for students who wanted to do something additional. There is an article just in case they want to go beyond techniques on mindfulness. Here is a video in order to profit from their character strengths, and then they see a link in order to practice the grammar further, right? So in this hyperdoc, as you can see, students could practice everything. I showed it to you in a very fast manner, but this was the work of 2 weeks for my students, okay? So I am definitely going to show you my hyperdoc here so that you can see it closely and have it in your drive. I think I'm sorry. The thing is that Katie was around. She had the copy to make the copy, but if not, I can give it to you like by the end of the presentation. Okay, so we continue. What happened? No, this is going faster than I wanted to. Yeah, because this is another. Sorry. Okay, so oh my God, what did this do? Yeah, so that's it. The activity 3, character strengths hyperdoc. So you need to make a copy of my character strengths hyperdoc and make it yours. Okay, you have mine as a resource, but the idea is that you transform it into something that you feel comfortable with, and then you enjoy what your students can do. Of course, you will have to do your own Flipgrid, your own Padlet, but now you know how to do those things because you went through that pandemic. And so if you want to have a hyperdoc, now you can do it. And it's going to be very beneficial for your students. You can have the 2 benefits, right? Teaching the language, making sure they practice what they need to practice in terms of vocabulary, grammar, writing, listening, etc. But also you have a topic that is connected to socio-emotional learning, okay? So there we go. Activity 4. It's 3 good things. This activity, the language features that we can practice with this activity are writing and reading, and it's for all levels depending on the complexity of the sentences that students can come up with. So let's talk about Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology. Martin Seligman was appointed to be the president of the American Association of Psychology in 1997, and in his speech, he mentioned how the aim of positive psychology is to catalyze a change in psychology from a preoccupation only with repairing the worst things in life to also building the best qualities in life. So he said that psychology had been focused only on identifying problems. They had already a typology of 32 mental illnesses. They already knew what was the difference between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and all these mental illnesses, but they were not doing much in order to generate health, mental health. And so when he became the president of the American Association of Psychology, he thought, well, what I want to do is to help people flourish, not only to cure mental disease, but to promote a mentally more healthy life. So in this order, he started proposing all these innovative ideas that gave birth to the movement of positive psychology. In his book, Authentic Happiness, which is also a website full of amazing activities that you can do with your students, he proposes an activity called 3 Good Things. This is the one that I'm proposing for us to take to our English classrooms tomorrow. So what is the activity about? You are going to think of 3 good things that have happened to you today, and you're going to write them down, right? This can be from el arroz del almuerzo estaba sueltico como me gusta, something like that. Very easy, very simple. To I'm grateful for my children. To I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my job. Today I went into the Transmilenio and I didn't have a card and somebody gave me a ticket. Today I was going to tell off one of my students, but then I remembered the Go Noodle and I breathed and I forgot and I didn't tell them off. You know, 3 very simple good things, and you write them down, right? So that's all. That's all. Very simple. So how can we transform this, or how can we move this into a class activity? Okay, so we give students time to write 3 good things that have happened to them. We do it every class, right? We help them out with vocabulary and grammar, and we repeat. Yes, the first times it might take you more time to correct the grammar and the vocabulary, but then when students learn, I'm grateful for, or today something great happened, chunk, then they'll be able to write it much better, much easier, much simpler every class, right? Okay. And activity 5 is the growth mindset rubric. Language, any. We can do this for any single language item we are teaching, any skill, anything. We can do this for anything we're teaching with any level. So this is very simple. And it actually is based on the Pygmalion effect, the self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's like we start acting like believing the expectations that others have from us, you know, something like that. So here we're gonna see, oh my God, this just disappeared. Wait a second. Okay. So people are influenced by the expectations built upon them, right? So this kid says, my teacher says I'll pass, so I'll probably pass, right? If my teacher thinks I'm stupid and I can't handle this grammar, or I can handle this topic, or I am too, you know, the students in this school, they're not so good, they're not good enough to understand that, so don't even try. We are condemning students to not being able to do anything else, right? So we don't do it because we're mean, we don't do it because we're evil, we do it because probably we have limiting beliefs about ourselves that make us believe limitedly about others, yeah? Martha will tell us that this is all about fixed versus growth mindset, and that when we have a fixed mindset ourselves, it's very difficult to believe that others, you know, that others' intelligence can grow. So first we have to work on our own limiting beliefs, and then we can believe more in our students. But that's the subject of a whole new conversation. So Marta is saying in the chat, if our expectations are low for students, they'll end up fulfilling that expectation, like a prophecy, right? So if we believe they cannot do something, they won't be able to do it. And this is very simply done in our rubrics, right? Unfortunately, I think the example of a rubric that is not desirable didn't come through, but it's like when we have here on the top, you know, we have the numbers and it says excellent, very good, good, poor. Those words, poor, insufficient, unacceptable, those things, we don't believe it, but they do have an effect on our students, right? And so this very simple exercise is proposed by Carol Dweck, the mother of growth mindset theory, and it's talking about it in terms of not yet, not there yet, right? It's not that you can't, it's that you haven't been able to do it yet. So having that not yet definitely sends a big message to our students that, honey, you can do it, just not yet, okay? It might take you 1 more semester, but you can still do it. And this is very simple. We just change our rubric. We just change a little word in our rubric, and it's going to have a huge effect on our students, right? So that was the activity 5, just changing our rubric into a more social-emotional learning oriented one by adding the term not yet instead of poor, deficient, insufficient, bad. We just change that into not yet, not ready yet, getting there, okay? So the bonus, the extra tip is the wheel of life exercise. As our partner said at the beginning, Well-being is all about balance. It's all about having a complete balance in our lives, right? So we can invite, I don't know why the pictures are not loading, but we can invite our students to do the Wheel of Life exercise on the wheeloflife.com website, which is going to tell them they're going to have like a little box writing to complete, and they can see how their Wheel of Life is shaping. So is it like I am having more emphasis on my job and my studies than on my personal relationships and on my spirituality, etc.? And also this website allows us to create our value profile, our value category profile. So we can see what are the values that move us, right, in our lives. And all these questions are in English, so they are a great opportunity for us to teach the language to our students through one of these socio-emotional learning exercises. Sorry about that picture. So anyway, we can show our students where our value is and where we have to work in order to fulfill, you know, a more flourished, complete life. All of this we're doing through websites that are in English, and all of this we're planning and thinking as class activities, right? It's not just, I want to do socio-emotional learning in English, but we are building our lessons around these ideas and around these concepts. So we can acknowledge SEL without forgetting that we are language teachers. I will say that again. And here it's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much to all of you. And I, oh my God, finished right on time.
Well, thank you, Carolina. Thank you very much for that enlightening presentation. And as you were saying, let us know that we can integrate other things in our classes as well, and without forgetting that well-being, which is very important for our students and for us as teachers. So thank you very much once again for accepting the invitation that ASOCOPI made, for being here and sharing all those important elements that are essential for our teaching and for our life. So thank you very much for being here. We are getting a lot of messages here in the chat. I don't know if any of you have any question before we close our session today, or if you want to say something else to Carolina as well, you can do it. Okay, thank you very much. Love these tips they said here. Thanks, just thank you, lovely, thank you. Well, everybody is really happy about this. Amazing webinar, and thanks. Yeah, it was really, really good. So I guess we can finish with this and call it for the day. So once again, thank you very much for accepting the invitation and for being here. And remember to check our social networks, so you can check what is the next webinar that we have prepared for you. And also you can get to know all the information and the events that ASOCOPI has for you. Thank you very much for being here. Bye.